Hey guys, good Thursday. We're tracking some really cold air that's moving across the Great Lakes, really into southern parts of Canada that's headed toward the northeast, and some of that's going to drop into the east too. There's also this system back here. The potential for it moving south and east is going to bring some snow into the Great Lakes, also into the northeast. And what's interesting is we'll likely see an area of low pressure develop somewhere near the coast. How far west is it? Is it a little bit further to the east? That will dictate where we will see the snow. And I am not completely believing what I'm seeing just yet. Some of the newest short range models are trying to dump snow into New York City. We're going to talk about that in today's video. So let's just get straight into it. Again, we've talked about kind of what's going on here across the country at this point. That really cold air up in here is going to spill into the eastern United States over the next couple of days. Look at your temperature anomalies. Way below average here in some areas, especially here across southeast Canada, moving into the northeast. Some of these areas could be close to 30 degrees below average, while across the west we are above average. And our numbers back here are going to start to really go up, especially here in the parts of Canada. We could be some 35, close to 40 degrees above average. Now, what I'm interested in is, yeah, it's going to get warm up into Canada, but does something try to slip underneath this ridge that's going to develop up in here? It may not be a cold, typical winter pattern, but something that I'm going to be watching through the week of Christmas. And I do want to welcome all the new folks here. A lot of brand new eyes come over to the channel almost every day. So if you're new, I'm Travis. I used to be a chief meteorologist on television, and now we're doing these forecast analysis type videos here on YouTube. So if you'd like to subscribe, I hope you will, and come back and let's track the weather together. For all the OGs, welcome back. There's your clipper moving through the northeast. It is more of a clipper type system, but then surface low pressure developing here off the east coast. This is the European. It's much more muted with the idea of a northeast snowstorm, but the overall broad pattern, I think, is looking good. Arctic high pressure moving in. You're going to get some lake effect snow here behind this, but this high is going to move off to the east pretty quickly. That's going to shut down the lake effect snow as we head into the weekend. It'll bring snow as far south as the southern Appalachians, down into East Tennessee, western North Carolina, up into the highest elevations there, right along the border, not down into Knoxville. It's going to be very tough to get much snow into Bristol, but you may be surprised. I don't think it's going to be a lot, though. Into the northeast, much colder. There's the chilly Arctic air spilling in, and then across the west, another storm moving in. Snow levels out west are really high, especially with this Pacific air mass moving in. Most of the cold air now way up to the north. We've got some decent upper level ridging, and that's keeping us warm in this part of the country. As we head into the weekend, cold Arctic high pressure building in. Temperatures, especially Sunday morning, could get really cold, and also across parts of Michigan, into Wisconsin really Friday, but then Michigan Saturday, and then in the Northeast on Sunday, where there's some snow. Temperatures could really drop, especially underneath high pressure where winds calm down. Now you radiate well at night, and it could get pretty cold with this Arctic air mass in place. That moves off to the east. Now we've got return flow developing, and this right here could be, I don't want to get your hopes up, but maybe a surprise snow into the Northeast. You know, a lot of folks say I talk about the Northeast a lot. That's where the snow is happening right now. There is some snow and rain across the West, but we're just dealing with showers across the central U.S. and down into the South. As we head through our real first official week of winter, temperatures across the South decently mild, maybe a little bit above average in some cases. And the further north you go, temperatures are going to get way above average. Let's zoom in quickly. Then we're going to continue that conversation as we head into the week of Christmas. First, I want to talk about the system that's sliding through the Great Lakes into the Northeast. It's going to bring a couple of inches of snow through Thursday into Friday from Milwaukee, jump across the lake here, really from central into North Michigan. A couple of inches here possible. Once you get close to Indiana and Ohio, not nearly as much snow here, and then some into southern parts of Ontario. So I think we do get some snow in Toronto, into Hamilton. A couple of inches here anyway. And then once it crosses back into the States, we're talking about 2, 3, 4 inches of snow. And then some of this here is lake effect as our winds turn out of the northwest. You can kind of see it here, some up into this region too. But the latest European model not putting much snow out here across the northeast, right along the coast. I want to show you the latest NAM model because it's been the one that really threw up the red flag last night. The new HRRR also giving us an idea that we're going to see a decent quick burst of snow on the backside of this. Now, I think the problem is going to be temperature, right? You folks in Long Island, I mean, I hear from you every time we talk about it. It's going to just rain in Long Island. I mean, it might. This is very, very marginal at best. But if you can get low pressure developing here with your trough swinging in from the west, you'll dynamically cool and you'll quickly go over to snow. There's a lot of uncertainty also in the wording from the National Weather Service. I was reading the forecast out of Norton, Mass, just kind of looking through there. Yeah, at this point they're being very conservative on the numbers, and I can see why because there's not a lot of certainty in the models. But the latest NAM, which would be the 6Z NAM, it doesn't use as much data. It tries to put the heavy band of snow. Look at this. I mean, come on now. That's got snow all through the state of New Jersey. It's got heavy snow in New York City, out to Long Island, into southern Connecticut, Rhode Island, and a good chunk of eastern Mass. Anyway, out to Cape Cod, it might be a little bit too warm. You may mix over to rain. Look at the numbers here. This is the latest, again, 6Z NAM, which I don't favor these odd number model runs because they don't use as much data. But, I mean, are we going to see 8 inches in Central Park? I really don't think so. I may eat my words, but the fact that it's showing it is what I want you to see. And then all along the Long Island, close to a foot. Last night, the snow was more concentrated up into this area. Again, this is the 6Z NAM. I want to go to last night's run, which was significantly different. So please do not come on here and say, you said it's going to snow a foot in New York. I'm not saying that. I'm showing you one operational model run. I will tell you the trend would be over into this region, and I think it's going to be pretty marginal here into Long Island. The thing that's going to get you over to snow is if you can dynamically cool enough. It's probably not going to be the air temperature. It's going to be as the trough moves through, does it catch up with our cyclone that's forming? That's our area of low pressure off the East Coast. The 3K NAM is much more muted. This is last night's overnight, midnight run. This would be early Thursday morning's run. It's a little more bullish for the snow. So I think the case is starting to build a little bit. I do want to show you the HRRR. It's definitely a good short-range model to look at. It picks up on some of the nuances like the warm air that might be across Long Island that sometimes the NAM misses, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think you may end up with just rain here, and that also does include New Jersey, but and maybe even right along the coast. But look how it's putting the heavy snow here, still into Rhode Island, into eastern Massachusetts. So I'm not sold on it, but you got something to pay attention to. That's a fact as we head into really Friday into Saturday. So a full update likely coming again later this evening as we look at this model data, which is, again, kind of spread at this point. This is the NAM model. Pretty impressive looking. You got to admit, that's the number. That's the latest run from 6Z. That would be early Thursday morning. Let's see what the midday run does and also this afternoon's run. And then that moves out pretty quickly. And again, after this point, everything kind of in decent agreement as we head into the weekend. Some snow, we talked about that across the southern Appalachians. Some of that back into the Ohio Valley, too. We could see a coating or so with most of that snow, again, up around the Great Lakes as our Clipper system moves through. And we could get a light coating of snow into parts of Ohio and Indiana. Certainly not your big snow if that's what you're hoping for. If you're not hoping for it, that looks pretty nice, right? All right, across the west, folks asking here about how much snow are we getting out here. Let's see the snow maps. Look how high those snow levels are. It's one of the reasons, I mean, we just see the big snows up into Alberta, up into British Columbia, right along the border of Alberta and British Columbia, really here into the ski areas of the Canadian Rockies. We're going to get some decent snow. And then right along the coastal ranges of British Columbia, big snows here. It really waits until I think next week till we start to drop those snow levels as a trough moves in. Let's look at the upper levels really quickly because I want to show you what a change we're going to see. You've got your trough in the east, this ridge across the west, big low up here south of Alaska, just pumping moisture into this region, putting some decent snow and some moisture into the area. Now we're developing a strong Pacific flow. That's going to bring some really warm air into the North American continent. Temperatures are going to go up way above average, especially up here in the Arctic as your cold air gets really pushed north here. And now you've got these disturbances that are probably just going to ride underneath this ridge. There's one, there's another, there's another. So my question is really going to be, will we be able to see something swing through? And will we be able to dynamically cool with any of these enough to see some snow? Now, this upper low here across Texas, here's the problem. If you've watched this channel for any length of time, I hate upper level lows because they do a terrible job of being forecasted by the models. Think about it. You've got this spinning lobe of air here, right? In this fluid atmosphere that's just spinning, right? What if it's a little slower? Well, that controls how far south it digs. Where does it go? They're very difficult to forecast compared to some of your broader, larger scale features. So I don't know. I think you got to watch. There could be some sort of surprise system here. Overall, though, it looks warm going through Christmas, but then things I think do start to change, especially into the east. This, although, looks a little weird. That's the operational run, so I'm not going to buy into that too much. Let's look at the sensible weather for the next week and what all that really boils down to. We talked about high pressure building into the east, a cold weekend after our system moves out, and now you've got this return flow starting to develop here. That could bring some snow into the Great Lakes, some showers here from the Mississippi Valley down into Texas, and there comes your next storm into the west. It's going to bring some rain here, some high elevation snow. But let's look at the Christmas Eve system here. Are you in for a surprise snow here? A little bit into parts of eastern Ohio, Pennsylvania, southern parts of Ontario. And look at this. Do we get snow waking up Christmas morning here in New York City? I really don't think so. But if you're hoping for a chance, maybe there's a slight chance of seeing that. And now you've got your weird, pesky upper low back to the southwest, warm across the Ohio Valley. Now we're pushing rain here. And look, another system tries to slide east underneath our high, which is up in here. That's trying to reinforce some cold air here into the northeast. That could keep a little bit of mixed precip here. Some snow moving into the Rockies as we move toward the 27th. Let's go beyond this and look really far down the road. There's the ridging as we head towards the beginning of the year. Overall, I see troughiness in the east. It's kind of a ridge developing across the west, and I don't think that's going to last because once we get into January now, I think you start to develop a trough across the west. Do you blow towards the east heading to the end of January? I think you do get a spring thaw. I think you're back warm again, although the first couple of weeks of January could be pretty rough. All right, that's all I got. See you next time.